Hi everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Fight Chat Friday from TKD Coach Academy. This is our last Fight Chat Friday of 2022, so join us as we go through the 6 most interesting shots or combinations from 2022 and the ones that we think are the ones to watch for 2023.
Hey everybody, welcome to the last episode of 2022, episode 120. So we're going to get stuck into some of the best shots that we've seen. Some of them have kind of come around in cycles. We know from being involved in ITF sparring a long time, and with any sport really, that the trends and the styles kind of go in waves and go in cycles as well. So we see some shots kind of coming back in that we've seen before, and we even covered one of them in last week's video. But some of these are brand new that people have kind of got hybrids from other parts of their training or maybe even other sports. But also we have some old shots coming back in as well. So we're going to cover 6 shots or combinations or solutions to combinations that we see in 2022 that may be a big factor in the 23 season and campaigns for people in ITF sparring.
Yeah, definitely. And again, in terms of what we were looking for something that's getting a high scoring return or that solves a fairly common problem that people are presenting, which is, your own high scoring attempt or your own efficient shot. And if it solves that for you, this is maybe one of the kind of things that we were looking at, as well as maybe a few out of the blue, out of left field kind of shots that, people are not expecting and so give you a little bit of surprise value. So those are the kind of things we were looking at. But
yeah, and another thing as well, Adrian, is that if you may not put these into your game, it's still good to be aware of them because you need to be ready and prepared on the flip side to make sure that you know what to expect and not get caught in the hop.
Absolutely. The first one is one that I think everybody knows, everybody is expecting. It's been a thing forever, but it's worth saying that adding value to those occasions where you get to hands, super important. Okay.
Absolutely. We see this so much this year, particularly coming off the hands. And we see 2 variations of the blitz in particular. We see this momentum blitz with a sprint finish where you push the opponent back. But we also see the type where it's like a stop blitz where there's like a hop in. But this sprint blitz in particular, we see from James here and Timothy in this clip, they're getting a lot of momentum to push their opponent back. And then that creates the opportunity and, more importantly, the space to fit in that big headshot finish.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the 3 points and 3 or 4 cards that we're looking for. It makes a big, impactful change on the scoreboard, can bring you from behind to into the lead in one go. It's a momentum shift. And, it automatically, when the opponent looks up and they see themselves, behind or that the 3 points have gone up on the board, it creates opportunities as well then to kind of extend your lead or to, compound on it because people tend to, react quite strongly to, I have to do something about this right now, this second, and they don't take time to think. So often they'll repeat a mistake, and it's something that we can look at, time and time again. Someone gets clipped with a headshot, and within 10 or 15 seconds, they get hit again.
This little clip here that we just seen a second ago, that was a variation of the shorter one. So because there's a little bit of a shorter distance, then you're not able to get to the head. But then that's where the body becomes an option. So we see there's some body shots as well. So it's picking that right one based on the spacing and the momentum that you do get with the hands.
Absolutely. I mean, the high value one, of course, is the headshot, and it's the one that we want. But another thing that the shot can give you is the momentum to be able to continue. It splits up the hands. It gives something else. It's not just a trade battle with the hands. And often it's that extra shot which is reflected in the scoreboard. So the referees look at it and go, okay, people are trading hands here. There's much of a muchness. There's not a big difference being shown here. But the second you put in a differentiating shot like the kick to the body, or in particular the head kick here,
lovely one there.
That's a great opportunity for the referees to go, okay, you got the edge in that one. We're giving you the reward on the scoreboard for that.
Yeah, great one. Definitely add that onto your arsenal if you can. And if it's not really something that's in your game, then work on the body. So get to the body if you can, but you do need that extra value.
Yeah, and we can see here, even with guys competing at very high intensity and very level in terms of the ability and skills, the finish here is a big differentiator. That last left leg high dolio to the head, it's a great shot in movement, in flow.
Yeah, that's
Definitely
brilliant.
something
And
to
it's
watch for.
because you have to match your opponent's intensity at the very least. If you don't match the intensity and the output, they're going to get the differentiator. But then if you're the one who's able to put that differentiator in, especially with a headshot, that's going to give you a big value on the scoreboard. That's a big difference from the other side.
So looking at the other shot that we mentioned in there, the short dolio, so being able to continue action to the hands, but with that short dolio to body, we have a nice example here from Ukraine against Jamie from Ireland. But it's just, we have the counter backhand, and just with the body, the head's almost touching. It's finding enough distance with the hips to be able to swing in that turning kick. So it's not something that you can really defend. If it's open because you can't see it coming. It's just there.
This really reminds me of the short dolio we see in WT, Adrian, where they hold the hogu and just fire it in.
Exactly.
It's almost like a hybrid of a front kick and a turning kick in one. So it's a lovely one to get in, a nice short one, and sometimes it bangs in with the shin as well, which takes the wind out of the opponent. So that's a nasty one as well.
And
so,
the way it arrives, it slips over the hip bone and up into the lower floating ribs, and it can definitely take the wind out of you. But it's the presence of mind to be able to, and the coordination really, to keep punching, to keep the opponent engaged, and then fire off that shot. And of course with WT, they're mixing that up with body shots and head shots, and maybe the backhand punch to the body and the clinch, where in our style you're not going to get the opportunities for that. The hands are going to be engaged. So often this is a case of keeping the eyes open, keeping relaxed enough so that you can continue to trade with the hands while finding that shot. And again, you might be scoring 1-for-1 with your opponent on hands, but that lets you break out of that exchange, perhaps with a 2-point lead on a couple of cards. So in terms of continuing your rhythm, gaining a little bit of advantage in terms of the scores, I think it's a lovely shot to have in the back pocket.
Yeah, definitely. You need to be able to set the feet there as well, and have the feet on balance to be able to work that, as you said, working the hands and legs in unison. You need to have the feet set to be able to bang that in there.
So coming to that entry from Ukraine that we had there, and we'll have some other examples, going direct into the backhand as a counter-attack, in particular to lead leg side kick or any kind of lead leg that's hip height. It's just been huge. It's a very clear score, and it allows so much follow-on.
I love this one. It's been a great shot. Like every time you see that, for me in 2022, when I've seen this shot land, it's like, okay, that's nice. It's just a lovely one, and everybody is saying the same thing, especially the judges. So if you can put that backhand in there, we're talking about clear differentiators. That's definitely one for me, and it's a big shot that we've seen in 2022, and I expect that to continue on as well next season.
Yeah, and I suppose some of the key points that we're finding is that, it is a shot that principally works when both people have opposite legs in front. So we're in that open stance to open stance kind of style. So you're getting your front foot to the outside of your opponent's front foot, bring the backhand into play, whether it's to the body or to the head, and it's leaving you in a position where, depending on how you finish, you're either skipping on through to the opposite side, or you're able to bring in your back leg as a follow-on shot. And it's very difficult to actually defend the follow-on from it because the opponent's front leg is trapped. It's already inside your front leg. So, it's just one of those things that when it connects, it's lovely. And we do see as well, like that, the kind of Ukrainian version of it that we had in the previous clip, where very often it's, can you create the length and absorb that first, shot onto the front hand and then reach through. So we have some lovely examples from that we've used before from Cian Ince and others, where you can create massive length by soaking up the length of the kick as you pull your front leg back, soak in the hip, and reach through with the backhand. So yeah, it's not a new shot, but it's something that we've seen quite a lot of in terms of getting return on the scoreboard for it. Yeah. Need to be a little bit careful. It's also the most minus pointed shot in the game at the moment as well, I would say.
Yeah, good point. You need to be brave at this one. When somebody's coming forward with a big foot and they're coming towards you, you need to be brave as well to be able to get the timing correct. So it needs a lot of practice as well to be able to get the timing correct as the opponent lifts that big toe off the ground. You need to be stepping in to close that distance and banging the backhand just at that sweet spot where it's not too short, not too far away, where you're getting creamed with the side kick. So just hitting that sweet spot.
The next one is one we've seen from a few people. Our example, we've got Annie Strickwe. I know Jamie Williams has played with this one a bit. There's a few others that I've seen. Axel Vargas has done a bit with it as well. But this very much out of nowhere, flip the front hand, cheeky little back fist attempt. And, it's not super clear, I suppose, from this clip, but that little touch in the chin, and you're getting 2 and 3 referees scoring, and it's for very, very little output, it's a big return.
Yeah, it's a bit of a deception one as well, because Anis here, he's leaning all his weight over that front leg, but his upper body is a bit behind it, so it looks like he's further away than what he really is. And all he has to do then is transition that weight forward, like you just seen there, and even with a touch of a little step, and he's able to close distance pretty quick with that, especially the fact he carries his hand low.
Yeah.
The fact that he's able to then bring that up in the skies without it being obviously visible, that's another part of the deception, because then it makes him appear as if he's further away. So the fact that he can interchange that between having it high when he needs to do different techniques, and then interplay that as well to sneak it up on the blind side, let's say, to just come straight through and get that cheeky score.
Yeah, and I think it comes into play in a little bit like this, where there's a circling game going on and the corners come into play, because where they've been standing there, and that was with Sergey, I think, in the final, as Sergey stepped off to his right, they're both open side facing, and that means that the distance is getting a little bit closer. So Sergey's actually bringing himself slightly into Anis's range as he does it. So it's a very good opportunistic, sneaky or cheeky shot out of Anis, I think, on that occasion as well.
Yeah, nice one.
So another one that we talked about, and I think is really relevant compared to, let's say, 4 or 5 years ago, where an awful lot of the defense to the blitz was with a jump back or float back defensive side kick, potentially a back kick. And we're seeing people more and more now using the hands to solve the blitz, just because the blitz, I think, is being thrown in a much more efficient style. And so finding the range to counter it effectively with the legs is, maybe not for everyone. So we're seeing, in this case, a very nice little jump away back fist from Anis Trickery here against Bustamante.
Yeah, we've been mentioning this for ages, Adrian, and it's one of the first times we got a nice clip from just the recent World Cup, so shout out to Anis there, lovely shot. But it is a great one, and he's able to loop on the defensive retreat, let's say, so that circular motion he brings with the hand, he actually generates a nice bit of power with that as well, like that coming across your nose. That's a big shot. You'll put your opponent in no man's land for a split second there with that, but it's a lovely one, very clear as well. So that's a nice little option for that. We see other options as well. The jump away back fist. We're seeing the slip hook that we've always seen. So that's lovely by Jamie. So there are options to be able to deal with that attacking blitz without having to use your legs.
And it becomes very, very important as well, because the big thing with the blitz at the moment is that if you're getting caught on that straight line, like when we look back at those headshot finishes right at the very, very beginning, if you're caught, in this case, you've made the defensive side kick. If your opponent continues, you're still on the line of the attack, and that's leaving the big score open again. And as we look at that, it's like, okay, having an option with the hands that either takes you off the line of the kick or takes the steam out of the attacking blitz, it can be a very good option for some people as well.
Yeah, I like that one, very nice.
So the big finish, I suppose, is the hacks. And anyone who's been following the channel for a while, we certainly rate this shot as one of the, not everybody throws it, not everybody has it, but the people who do get a huge return on it, match after match after match.
Yeah, we're seeing, like, the variation of this is you can either use the hacks or you can use the blindside dolly to the head, which we've seen in last week's video,
depending on the footing.
Exactly. So, like, both of them are lovely options. Either way, the story of this is headshots win. So if you can bang in a couple of headshots in a match, you're in a great position. So if you can use the hacks, the dolly, it doesn't matter what it is. But this is a lovely option because it's disguised so well with the chamber of the side kick. So it looks like it's a side kick and it just comes over the top, floats down top of the helmet. Great little shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've found so many good examples of this because, again, everybody will recognize the fighters who throw this and score consistently. So, if we go back to the Julio Carlos, he's usually going the other side. So he's usually taking the blindside dolio, but in the same kind of opportunities in the same moments. We're saying the same with James Toot. It's not usually the hacks, it's usually the blindside dolio that comes over the shoulder. Just the way it works, depending on which opponent it is. But, certainly they'll score more effectively on that side, whereas we see, although I'm sure Ziga has that shot as well, you tend to see the hacks much more often from the likes of himself. So very, very nice one recently there from Shimon Denishovitz in the fight night in Scotland, where he scores a lovely one. Very much the same thing, carrying, looking like it's going to be a side kick, flips over the shoulder. So, still has that ability to open out the leg and bring it over the shoulder. But it's just a hard shot to defend if you've got the capacity to maintain a high body position, so not too much lean, so that you can carry it forward, squeeze that knee chamber and bring it over the shoulder. It's an absolutely fantastic shot for a high value score.
It naturally opens up the body position as well to follow on with hands.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people in that side facing position, that natural trajectory of the hacks opens up that body position to bring both hands into play.
Yeah, and when you're starting to train it, if you are getting used to that, encourage yourself, give yourself that condition of follow it with the backhand. Because once you've opened up the backhand, the front hand is easy. So, if you can land your front leg in a position where the backhand is available, you'll always be able to connect both hands.
And even we're talking about the cheeky short dolio these days to the body, but if you can come over the top with that front leg, if it drops short and you don't land it, that foot is right there to bang that back up directly with the same foot off the front leg as well, depending on the body position, of course, if the stance is there. But that is another option as well, because we will see that this shot lands short from time to time, but it's a nice one to use in that springboard motion that we've talked about so many times this year. To be able to bounce off the floor, to use a springboard effect to attack with another shot off the front leg. Yeah,
and in particular, if you're a very side fighting stance kind of fighter anyway, the hacks isn't as easy for you to throw. The knee lift will tend to be a bit more horizontal to the floor rather than having an angle. And what might well happen is that the initial shift carries you in a side kick position, and then as you trampoline up, your hips realign, your back foot turns in, and you can convert. And then all of that is hidden from your opponent because they're just worried about making their distance, and then you can quickly convert your shot and make it into that hacks. It's very versatile that way as well, I think.
So there's some of the main shots that we've seen this year. I think as well, we should give an honourable mention to the good tried and tested back kick. I think that has been another staple of this year, and
in
I
particular,
think we see that next year as well.
Back kick to back kick combos,
Yeah, the doubling up, So it'll be interesting to see what next year brings. Everybody is innovating all the time, coming up with new variations to their technique and their style. So let's see what 2023 brings, and hopefully a new iteration of the game that we can look to solve and discuss on Fight Jet Friday.
100%. So listen, to everybody who's been with us all year, a very happy new year from myself and Richie here at TKD Coach Academy. Have a wonderful end to the year, and we will see you next week with our first episode of 2023.
Brilliant. Catch you next week, guys. Have a great new year.